thank you very much for coming to APS.
To those of you who were here last year, thank you for coming. For those who are coming for the first time, welcome to the church or to the mosque. Today is going to be a great day, and I hope that the conversation will expand some of the things that we all do day to day.
Over the next 30 years, 1 billion new Africans will be born. And by 2050, 1 in 4 humans will be African. Will this be a blessing or a curse? At Ventures Platform, we believe that by investing in the right kinds of entrepreneurship and innovation, we can produce 2 powerful outcomes. We believe that we must begin to shift our view of Africa's population boom as an end in itself, but rather viewing it as a starting point. The venture capital story cannot be one of charity or impact alone. We must deliver competitive returns. That's the only way we attract 10x more capital. This is why we created the Africa Prosperity Summit. Really because the most critical work we have to do as Africans is build prosperity at scale. And so it is my hope that today, as you listen to the conversations that will be shared, as you engage and network, you leave here better inspired and more supercharged to do the critical work that we need to do as we approach 2050.
In the context of investing in Africa, sometimes I think we forget where we are. So where are we? The second is, who are we? So this is really for us. This is not for some abstract idea of a government out there, or the international community, or the big corporates, or the trillions of dollars in capital out there that we talk about. This is us. The third is, what do we do? And then the last is, what are we going to do from here, right? Or what are we going to do next?
Well, what it means is we should prioritize economic prosperity so that as we deal with the issue of sustainability, we actually deal with it from a place of heft, from a place of resources, and not from a place of poverty and begging. And so I think as we think about sustainability, we do need to put economic prosperity at the fore.
Are you sure you're capturing just money coming home from people abroad? Or do you think sitting here in Nigeria selling me a service is actually counting that as a remittance? So you're counting it as a remittance, but in fact it's a service, export, it's a growth story. I don't know the answer, but what I do know is if services can lead this takeoff, can lead us to dollar revenues that have always previously come from textile exports or electronics exports, we can do it at a higher fertility rate than we've ever done it before. Because we don't need the same amount of savings. And that means we could see takeoff a lot quicker than I am saying in this presentation.
And I think there's a very big work of advocacy that needs to be done with whoever detained the capital, whether these are life insurance companies, pension funds, social security funds, that basically needs to start investing part of their assets under management in both the private capital asset class, but specifically on the VC. I understand that it can create an interesting evolution in terms of their own return profile for their own subscribers.
Investors are attracted to good thematics. They're attracted to strong operators and people who can show, who perform at the end of the day. So it's people need to come with well thought out businesses. They need to show they've got some skin in the game. They need to show that they've been at it for a while. There's a resilience element in founders that you look for.
And that's why we like venture capital. It can reach more people. It has a very inclusive depth to it. And it's just the resilience of founders. It's the kind of ingenuity that businesses are built on, which kind of mitigate a lot of the usual risks that you see in Africa.
And I feel that Africa is the future. Africa make a lot of innovation now, and then we should integrate Africa innovation to the Japanese technology and knowledge of the business. That will be the great collaboration in the future, I feel.
So I think this summit is a great platform to be able to showcase some of the success stories that have come out of the continent, where we've been able to see a number of startups go on to be very successful, not only in Nigeria, but across the continent. We need these conferences to be able to show real-life examples of when enterprise and when entrepreneurs have gone on to create significant wealth for themselves through the ventures that they're building.
So this paper, we explored 3 key things. First of all, we just examined the mechanism of climate change in Africa. We looked at what the impact looks like for us in Lagos, in Nairobi, in Cairo, as well as leveraging guiding frameworks, so whether it's mitigation, adaptation, and enablers. And so we explored existing frameworks and slightly modified it to what we leverage for the rest of the report.
I think it's important, particularly for us, that we're addressing some of the key challenges around climate, but also around financial inclusion. And I think companies that are really addressing some of these challenges and are able to provide credible solutions will do the best in the long term.
The first thing is, what is a product that you want to do? And whatever you want to do, think about a product for long term. Number 2, put money behind marketing. The third thing you need to do is employ good people. It's the people that made us successful.
Africa is not a homogeneous market. Usually evaluating markets solely based on GDP or population size can mislead investors. If you look at the ocean markets, like Nigeria, those markets are the most competitive. And because they are competitive, it's harder to reach profitability. In contrast, in Francophone countries, in lake markets, you can build a 100 million company that's generating 50 million profit. And in contrast, in ocean markets, you can build a 500 million revenue company making 30 million profit. Which one do you prefer?
But what I think we're doing here is contributing to the discussion about the future of Africa. Hopefully, as we bring more people together in the future, we'll bring more investors, more entrepreneurs, more innovators, more policymakers together. The conversation that we start on stage is just the beginning of the wider conversation that will happen in terms of the product that will be built, the kind of policy that will be formed, and the kind of money that will go to startups and to builders, to operators, that would then show the future of Africa.
And part of that is by sharing those journeys with each other. And so this conference is fantastic for allowing people at different stages of their journey to really share and to learn from each other, whether that's listening to speakers on stage or, more importantly and better, is just the side conversations that happen. And the founders talking to each other, and the founders talking to investors, and the investors talking to investors.
I hope that we had some mindset shifts today about the importance of investing on the continent and funding that next billion that we've spoken about, but also how they can do that sustainably and effectively. I also hope that people made very valuable connections. There were a lot of conversations that were happening. People were catching up with old colleagues, but also having the opportunity to meet new connections. So I hope that those result into, whether it's partnerships or investment or anything that, will benefit both parties that are conversant.
And that, for me, is the legacy that I hope that Africa Prosperity Summit creates, that we become united in sort of investing in the right kinds of innovations and supporting each other as we look to build a better continent.
And on that note, I want to say thank you for coming to Africa Prosperity Summit, and we'll see you next year.